Yeah. So I'm going to start recording right away in case you say something funny and we're not recording. How are you doing, man?
Awesome, bro. It's funny because I texted Andy a couple days ago, did not realizing he was on a hunt. Still haven't
Right.
heard back from him, asshole. So
Right.
but he was hunting axis deer. I was down in Texas hunting axis deer, and then I was like, man, Tony's got to get Andy on his podcast because I listen to Andy stuff all the time, and
Right.
I just love listening to him and how he processes things.
He's smart.
And he's articulate. I
Yeah.
don't think he's smarter than me. I think I'm smarter than him, but he's just way more polished in his language patterns than I do.
Both of you aren't that smart, so it's easy to have that competition. But
Fair.
no, he's a really interesting interviewer, very methodical in how he's really thought about what he thinks about and speaks about. So it's kind of cool. Tell me what you've been up to, man. You've been friggin' following on social media. I get exhausted. I look at your feed and then I got to rest because you're making me feel older and older. The shit you're doing, it's insane.
I don't know. I feel like I'm always on the move, but then I don't ever looking back. I don't feel like I've ever done anything. I don't understand it, but
I don't know. I don't know about that. For people who don't know who you are, there's like one or two. I've got I'm hoping the audience is growing with the podcast, but I'm getting really, really nice feedback. A lot of people like the fact that I don't start off selling products for 10 minutes, I've got one of the things I made a joke about this on a couple of talks, that what I've learned most about podcasting is that I'm a horrible listener and I don't know how to talk to people. And because for like 20 years, people ask me questions and I just fucking talk. Right. So here I am talking now, you're just nodding and I'm going to just talk for like an hour and then say thank you. But for people who don't know who you are, can you give us, I know you're incredibly reserved and humble about your background, but it's worth celebrating and articulating. And it's one of the cool things about you, whether you like that or not. I mean, it doesn't change who you are, what kind of man you are, and the things you stand for and what you do. But I also think that they're intrinsically connected into, what type of warrior you were and your background. But just for people who haven't Googled you, can you give us a little elevator pitch speech?
Yeah, I just a suburbia brat, grew up middle class family. I had strong parents, good values. Found myself in a little trouble here and there, teenage mischief, and enlisted in the Marine Corps. I was 18 years old, went into the Air Force recruiter's office, and they said I wasn't what they were looking for. A little bit of this background, not good enough grades, something, and that was the first time anybody had told me that I wasn't good enough or I wasn't going to make it. I walked out of there, and this Marine Corps recruiter, Staff Sergeant Allen, he's like, "Hey, what's wrong?" I was like, "Yeah, something." And next thing you know, I'm signing on the dotted line because I wanted to run around the woods and jump out of airplanes. And he's like, "I got the job for you." So enlisted in guaranteed contract infantry. Little did I know that guarantee was going to happen regardless anyways, but I felt special.
Right.
And I spent 8 years, a little over 8 years on the enlisted side of the house, was offered a commissioning package and accepted, went to college at University of Rochester and Rochester Institute of Technology for mechanical engineering. Not because I wanted to learn the science, but I felt that there was something to be said for, diligence and dedication to study. And I tell everybody that I learned more about leadership at that stage in my life by going through the mechanical engineering technology degree program.
Really?
How to build teams, how to manage teams, how to work well within teams, align assets and, protect yourself from weaknesses. And it was great. I was commissioned in the Marine Corps, and I chose to stick with the infantry community and finished up with 21 years in the Marine Corps as an infantry officer, retired as a major.
So I told you I was going to force you to talk about things that maybe you don't like to talk about, but you skipped a very important event that I do want to kind of illuminate on this show, because what spawned the show is this whole my fascination and focus on fear and fear management and the ability to do the scary shit even though it's scary, because it's a choiceless choice. The fight has already come to you. You can hide under your desk or hide behind a rock and hope the cavalry rushes in, or you realize you got to do shit. And so, we've known each other for many years and have had cool talks, both as a result of adult beverages being consumed, and also just drinking water. But it's something that I consider you a friend, but I'm also amazed at some of your background. And I'm the guy, me, I've been teaching for almost 4 decades, and I've worked with from pro fighters to tier 1 operators. And I'm always in awe because I'm the proverbial guy behind the ropes. I'm the guy talking about strategies and training, and you guys are the fighters in the arena coming back going, oh, that didn't work, or that did work. And so I'm always in awe of, warriors of your, your class and your stature. So you skipped an important part that I want, in whatever way you're comfortable, to talk about. There was a significant event where, there were probably several events, but there was one where you received a special commendation and you did some pretty amazing shit.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'll tell anybody anything. They just have to ask for it.
Go for it. Let's hear it.
Loves to share for the sake of sharing, but if somebody's going to ask, I'll go there. I don't have any qualms about it. But I was awarded the Navy Cross for heroism, something in the face of the enemy in Iraq during the OIF 1 push back in 15-year anniversary coming up next week. So March 25th was the day, I think 24th through the 25th was the day that it happened. But we were ambushed, and we were spearheading the column. The whole division was headed, or at least 5th Marines, RCT 5 was headed north on Highway 1. There was 4 tanks in front of us, and I was the lead vehicle, light-skinned vehicle behind the tanks, supporting them as the combined anti-armor team platoon commander. And we just came under an ambush. Some mortars started coming in, RPGs, tank was hit, Humvee behind us got hit. Doc Johnson was killed, and Corporal Quintero had his guts ripped out by the RPG when it went through the Humvee, and we just responded. We reacted, near side ambush, and we won that little fray. But so the citation reads whatever, and we all know military citations, they use flowery words and they make more of something than it is, or whatever it is, for whatever reason. But we came under fire, heavy machine guns, small arms fire, mortars, RPGs, and told the driver of the vehicle to head towards the trench. And he drove straight at the machine gun nest, and Corporal Thomas Franklin was the 50 cal gunner up in the turret, which was funny because normally he was the driver, and Armin McCormick, who was driving, is usually the 50 cal gunner. But we switched him to give him a little bit of rest and keep them fresh. You got to keep guys fresh, putting them in different situations.
Right.
So that they don't get complacent, And he drove straight at the machine gun nest, and Thomas Franklin just walloped it with 50 cal. And as we're going across, I don't know, it must have been like 50 yards or so, 75 yards off the road through rocky terrain. He just buried the Humvee right in the trench. So I jumped out and started shooting dudes. And I yelled for Armand because he was my running mate. Lance Corporal McCormick at the time. He was with me as a radio operator when I was in the line, and I brought him over to be my right-hand guy, radio operator and whatnot, when I went to combine in an armor team. But said, hey, let's go, follow me. Classic lieutenant words, right? Follow me. And he's like, all right. But, the wherewithal of McCormick was that, hey, let me give Franklin some ammo first. Because Franklin's up in the turret of this Humvee that's buried in a trench. And so he's throwing boxes of 50 cal ammo up on top of the Humvee. And Robbie Kerman, who was in the back, I'll do a side story here. The Humvee that was hit with the RPG that was following us, they had 4 people in their Humvee plus our pigeon, our biological chemical detection pigeon. So they were really compressed in a tow missile vehicle. So I was like, hey, Robbie, why don't you come ride with me today? And ironically, the seat that Robbie sits in was the one that was impacted by the RPG. And so he rode with us that day. And you want to keep paying it forward. I mean, that kid saved my life 3-4 times in a matter of 10 minutes. Just, the gods willed it that way. But we got out, we started running down the trench and just started shooting bad guys. I mean, we were at the long side of the axis, and we just started running down their flank and shoot them as fast as I could shoot them. Robbie was a little bit more methodical. He'd take a knee and he'd shoot some of them from a little bit farther distance, and they were coming over the top of the berm. And so I was blinking them off, going off the top of the berm. And Armand caught up to us after he finished feeding 50 cal ammo to Thomas. And we just kept going down the trench 200-300 meters and just shot everybody we could possibly find. Blessed to be around the two of those guys that day, because they're amazing human beings.
Yeah, courage is contagious, and that's kind of neat to have, brothers like that, shoulder to shoulder, moving. One of the things in reading about your background, and I read this years ago, but just refreshing it is just if this is accurate, because I never asked you directly, but talked about you picking up the enemy's weapons and using them. Was that because you ran out of ammo?
Yeah, I shot my M16 dry a couple times, grabbed the magazine from Kerman. I had a jam at one point, and I gave Kerman my M16, said, clear this jam, and I took his and just kept running. And shot off the ammo. The dogs are going to bark for a second.
That's all right. I got 4 that I put outside.
You got some awesome dogs, too.
Yeah.
But we ran out of M16 ammo, and I just started picking up AK-47s from the bad guys and shot those dry. Not, drop that one, pick up another one. There was plenty of bad guys that were dead and ground and all their guns, so I just kept picking them up. And
right.
I had a pistol with me. I shot that pistol empty too. And at one point, we had gotten so far down the berm, like something switched in my head, right? Like you go to immediate response mode. I mean, you
right.
can call it flinch. And I love that, because it's really what we do when we train for immediate action drills.
Right.
It's the start. We try to ingrain patterns of behavior.
Let's pause a sec, because this is too exciting, and the dog wants to be on the show. Go check him out.
Yeah, sorry, bud. Freya, shut your mouth. They all bark when Mama comes home, and they get all happy.
Nice.
So, the startle flinch methodology, or the startle flinch concept that you've introduced, coined, and it just resonates with me so well, and I love it. It's immediate action drills.
Right.
We train, go through like, hey, if this happens, like without thinking, like bang, 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 like you're going to do these 4 or 5 steps.
And this is one of the things in dealing with and talking with many people in the militaries over the last couple of decades. And I've gotten better at the expression. Like 15 years ago, I didn't say we're going to weaponize the flinch, so that the conversion time between stimulus and response is as short and as practical and tactical as possible. I probably would have saved some like weird looks and conversations, because people would say like, why would you want to flinch? And I'm going, you don't want to flinch. But if you're like, the reason it's called an ambush is because it's an ambush, and it's going to attack your reptilian brain before your cognitive brain can catch up to what's happening. And if we could see slow motion of everyone's movement when rounds are hitting a car or a bomb's going off, there are micro flinches as your body recoils intuitively away from the kill zone. And then, depending on what your hands are doing, if they're coming up to protect your head or push away danger. So I was, make a joke, especially like these days when, something happens online and all the guys who have guns and concealed carry say, well, that's why I always carry. And I'm like, dude, like, unless your gun is duct taped to your hand, when you flinch, your gun is nowhere near your hand. You still need to weather the flinch, orient on the threat. It creates some space, get some workspace. And the concept here is what I tell people now is we've got to get our cognitive brain to catch up to what our reptilian brain, the amygdala and the limbic system, have already started moving to safety. And we've got to marry that communication. And that's what we mean by weaponizing the flinch.
Yeah, I love it all. I mean, I might finesse it too. I mean, it's your philosophy, but I don't know if I want my cognitive brain to catch up. I think nature knows best, and it wants my flinch. And what I want to do is I want to start to pattern or program, or at least like so that startle, and then my 2 or 3 flinch responses, whatever they are. It's exactly that. It's to harden yourself to weather whatever's happening, and to buy you some time.
Correct.
Whether that's space or through moments, to be able to now hit the sequence of steps 2, 3, 4, 5. If you ideally like boom, 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 and now you're moving. And then I want the cognitive brain to step in, because that cognitive brain, and if you don't have control over it, or you don't, it could take you down the wrong path pretty quickly.
Yeah, 100%. And for, go ahead.
We actually like that's a point of pride for me in saying I know exactly what the enemy's going to do. I try to put them in situations so that they startle flinch, but I'm expecting what they're going to do, and I'm there to catch them. You know, and that was a lot of the battlefield tactical decisions we made in Fallujah, which makes this ambush seem like a fairy tale with a happy ending. I mean, it's the experience in Fallujah was 1,000 times worse. But when we were the predators, so we are preying on what the enemy's going to do when you do something. So, and then you catch them there. Their cognitive brain caught up. It's like, oh shit, I need to do this. Well, we were already ready because we knew where that was going to happen. The worst thing worst person you could fight was the person that you couldn't predict. Would you agree? Like,
yeah,
you can't predict that person. That guy's dangerous. That person is lethal, you know? So sorry to interrupt, but
no, dude, it's you're the guest, you know, no interruption at all. My whole thing and the thinking on that, because it's an interesting discussion, and the semantics are worth dissecting, because if I want you to threat discriminate, you need your cognitive brain. You don't want your reptilian brain. So when I say your cognitive brain has to catch up, what I'm saying is your cognitive brain has to respect and embrace what your amygdala limbic system, the emotional brain, is going to do. But then it needs to massage that movement into something practical and tactical. And as soon as you can, and I always, we follow each other online. But I always talk about don't confuse technical with tactical. That would be the analysis paralysis, the person that's overthinking and they're hesitating. And then, of course, the physiology before physicality, where there's this focus on the complex motor skill and the right way to step, or the right way to punch, or the right way to shoot. I guarantee, and I've done so much research on this stuff. And one of my fun things over the years when I was developing the SPEAR system was interviewing victims and victors of violence, finding the thread of behavior and mindset. And it didn't, it could be a rape victim and an attempted rape victim, and what was going on in the mind, because it wasn't their kung fu that got them out of it. And if we look at, it wasn't, if we look at like real gunfights versus like shootouts, there was a buddy of mine, I'm not going to mention his name because I don't have permission, but he'd been at the time I interviewed him, in 9 officer-involved shootings. And I'd heard him like he was kind of a legend in Texas. And I was doing a lot of stuff for the TTPOA. And they said, you should talk to this guy because he's been in 9 gunfights. And they were like, some of them were undercover, some of them were a shotgun, some of them were a pistol, some of them, none of them were sniper, because I always make a joke, the only one cool and calm in a gunfight is a sniper, because he's nowhere near the bad guy, right? And so when I asked this guy, I said, hey, there's a lot of arguments on isosceles versus Weaver versus this load versus this. And I know the answer, but what I don't want to lead the question, so I get like a false statistic. Mm-hmm. So I always ask this really dry. I go, so when you were in your 9 gunfights, which stance were you in? And right, and and nobody heard you just because you were talking. But what did you say? Say it again.
No fucking idea.
Right, and I guarantee while you were running, under fire, ambush, grabbing the enemy's weapons and shooting them, that you weren't thinking about left foot, right foot. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll supinate my foot like this, and here I'll put my chin down. Like, you're just moving, and literally, that weapon is an extension of your body at that point, and you're just fucking moving. And I can only like imagine vicariously. And but that was that whole thing. Is like, I asked this guy what stance, and he was like, stance. It's like you're in a gunfight, there is no stance. You're not standing there, right? And it was just this funny thing of this how part of the industry is so academic, and part of the industry is energetic. Like, let's move, let's get going. But I want to try to at the moment. And like, Gavin DeBecker in his book Gift of Fear, and I'm paraphrasing, but he says, fear is the static you feel before the event. If something takes too long to happen, but once you go, if you commit to it, like, and you're not hiding from it, right? If you go, like, that fear dissipates, because now you're just in flow or in the zone, or you're just moving. When the shit hit the fan and you guys started, your immediate action kicked in, and let's say you ran dry or you got a jam, was the transition to another weapon instantaneous, or can you remember moments where you went, oh fuck, this isn't good? And like where there was a beat or a pause or some hard cover where you were actually like managing the fear while you were deciding on your next move, or was it just seamless?
Yeah, it's funny because I've listened to your podcasts, and I hear some, and I wrote some notes down because
okay.
2 or 3 things on that, like, because I don't think fear starts happening till you start thinking about it.
Okay.
Right. Like when, and I don't know, I'm not the scientist here. All I can know is how I process the world, but I'm not afraid of anything until I start thinking about it.
Okay.
And in the stride of something, or preemptive to something happening, or even afterwards.
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe it's not fear, but like thinking about it afterwards, and then all of a sudden you start shaking. You're like, oh my God, like,
dude, let me interrupt here. Let me interject here something because I fucking love that so much. I just posted something for our friends in the CrossFit community for 18.5, and my first sentence on the post here is, "Do you overthink?" Yeah. Like, that was because that's what it is. Like, you're hanging out here and then someone goes, did you forget to call somebody? And you go, oh my God, I missed this deadline. I'm in trouble. I'm going to get fired. Whatever it is. And then suddenly, so I really love that. I want to meditate that on a little bit more because, the some of us, because of our upbringing, because of whatever generation we grew up in or whatever, like I grew up, Tosh, I'm 57. I grew up, and I, for whatever reason, was afraid of everything. Like my shadow, I was afraid when like I'd be camping with my parents, and then at a certain time when it would get dusk, if I wasn't near the campsite, I'd be like, oh fuck, I'm gonna get murdered. Like, I'd just start thinking about getting caught in the woods by some guy and tortured, and I would have all these. And this is like, I'm 6 years old, 7 years old, when I wrestled, when I competed in skiing. You've heard me tell my ski story where like people thought I was going to represent Canada in the Olympics if I kept on this trajectory with athleticism and ski skill and everything. And I never won a race. I almost never finished a race. I always wiped out because I was going too hard. I always fell, skied off the course. And I remember thinking to myself, over and over again, because people would pat me on the back. Today's your day. Today's your race. You're ready to go. And I remember always thinking, if I'm so good, why am I so scared? And that was really the genesis of my investigation on the psychology of fear versus the physiology of fear. And so I'm fascinated by what you said, and I want to get back to you and flick this metaphoric mic back to you and get more of your ideas, because I am cursed with thinking about things that trigger fear, so that I have to go, dude, that's like not even an event. You're imagining this shit. And that's what we talk about, false evidence appearing real. When I'm imagining a future event that hasn't even happened, that's debilitating me in the present. I'm not enjoying my fucking day because I'm worried about tomorrow. right?
Yeah, it's the power of invention. You know, I listened to Benjamin Zander talk about, you know, a long time ago at business school, and he has this presentation about invention. And it's like, yeah, like you're inventing the worst case scenario already. Like, why? Where's the evidence for that to happen? When for every worst case scenario that you're going to spend the time inventing, you could spend the time inventing 1,000 other positive scenarios, a positive outcome. So why not just reframe the way you even start to, you know, do this? And
so posed.
And that's where I'm at. You know, the invention. I catch myself all the time thinking something bad or negative, and I'm like, whoa, hey, Tosh, stop for a second. Whoa, what's telling it? Is that a rational or irrational thought? 9 times out of 10, it's irrational. And I feel the conversation. We don't have to beat it up. Like that carries over specifically to this conversation. And hey, so the way my head works weird, but it'll all tie back together hopefully. But I always think suspect of people that can recall, not in a bad way, such specific feelings and emotions of what they were feeling back in the day. Like this event was 15 years ago.
Right.
And I can only imagine what I was feeling back then. I mean, it's 15 years ago.
Right.
Was I thinking? What were my emotions? Was it cognitive? Was it not? Like, I have a general idea, but we also know from traumatic events that the human body slows time down the way it perceives it, and it picks up specific details. There's a lot of omission of noise. And there's sometimes when you're there and you start to reflect, you invent shit that never even really happened. But for some weird reason, because of the traumatic experience, you start to invent some details. And I always try to protect myself from going down that road when I recall a story, you know.
Right. There I was alone, standing there. Right. Yeah.
All I know is some shit happened and we responded. And bless myself for having been surrounded with amazing men. For the awesome amount of training, quick tie-in, Weaver stance, isosceles stance, this, that. And you have to spend your time in an instructional setting developing those hardcore skills, right? Like the technique, pounding it over and over and over again. But you also have to be mature enough to look and say, hey, okay, has a place over here, but I don't have to dork out about just that. It's the application. And I may not have used the Weaver or the isosceles, but there's something in me that says that the sound fundamentals of marksmanship out of necessity, extreme necessity, started to tie itself together. My breathing probably was controlled before I took a shot. I don't know. Did I, you know, the whole breathing thing, did I exhale and take a deep breath and fire? Like, I don't know, man. I probably did here and there, and I probably didn't here and there. There was a certain point in assaulting the trench in that my cognitive brain did catch up. And I started thinking, what the fuck are you doing? Your whole platoon is back over there. You've got a casualty. The tanks are kept driving up the road and are engaged in another contact because you can hear them banging. I got a vehicle that's stranded and 2 guys are like, things started to catch up. Oh, the battalion that was in column behind us are doing their immediate action drill. So they pointed to the enemy, started laying down fire. They're dismounting. They're getting ready to assault this trench. And oh, guess what? I'm in the trench and they don't know I'm here, you know? And so Armand, you know, is like, grab this RPG. And I'm like, shoot the RPG. And it was a terrible shot. Skipped off the ground. I don't know. I shot it, you know? Right. And then I'm thinking, like, it started to catch up. Like, nobody knows we're here. We got to go. We did our job. We got to go continue to do the right job there. You know, we bought time for the battalion. We don't need to stay. We're going to get shot by good guys. Right. And so Armin wanted to keep going. And I just went, no, we got to go back. And we turned around and I'm so glad that I'm glad that my cognitive brain caught up. Right. You know, and there needs to be that ebb and that flow. I'm sure we could sit down for hours and really kind of dissect what's going on. You'd be able to put the science on it. But I mean, that's what happened. And we got back to the vehicle and now you start thinking. And then all of a sudden, the magnitude of what just happened starts to set in. Right. And then your body starts having this other response. And it's like, hey, I don't have time to think about that. I need to go do this. So I'd love to sit here and say definitively, I didn't experience any fear. I didn't have time to. I didn't have time to think about it because then it's like the next job. And for the next 24, 36 hours, you know, the mother of all sandstorms came in. We're getting, you know, thermal images coming in and we're anti-armor platoon and we got to go. We can't see 5 feet in front of your face, even with NVGs on. And, you know, But I do remember there being this massive backlash of reflection 36 hours later, and just almost like, holy shit. I went up to Chief Warrant Officer Erickson, mentor buddy of mine, and we had a break as we were refitting and grabbing some fuel to keep the push going. And he's like, hey dude, like, he gave me a canteen cup, poured some cold water on it, and handed me a razor. He said, shave. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm chained. I didn't even know. I'm just chain smoking and I'm shaking. And this is 36 hours after the event. But him being there and then shaving, taking your mind off of it, and then all of a sudden things start to settle. And I think there's something there. So in the moment, I don't know what I was thinking. I just remember being overwhelmed with some emotion. Like, I'm going to get fucking killed, and the men that I love are going to get killed. They're dying. Like, got to do something, and you just start.
Nice.
And that's what happened. I'd love to say that I was somebody special here and there. You do the same thing, like, right? Like, when your life is on the line, like when Tony, I'm telling you, you're about to die. You don't fucking think. You just start acting. And if we've done the job correctly in training, your actions turn you from prey back to predator.
Right.
Because when you're ambushed, I mean, that's what it is, right? You are prey. And all of a sudden you start a flinch. I'm going to use your stuff. You start a flinch, you buy yourself some time, but then very quickly it's ingrained in you to become the predator. And when a predator has the table turned on them and all of a sudden they realize that they're the prey, you fucking win. Mm-hmm. And that's what you have to do. That's combat, and I think there's a tempered down version of that maybe for the civilian world and business or love and relationships. I don't know. I'm not in the business of that right now, but that's your job. Go from prey to predator as fast as you can. And the best of the best, they do that like this.
It's deep, man. It's and it's interesting because with all the active killers going on, all the shootings, and I'm dealing with that with my daughter and her reactions. And the other day they had a false alarm. The fire alarm went off at the school, and of course that was the stimulus to trigger the ambush in Florida, right? The guy pulled the fire alarm, and the kids are talking about it, and then there was just a shooting the other morning, and then like 2 hours later, kids are all talking about the SRO that killed that kid 2 days ago. And then the alarm goes off, and most people should know by now that my family experienced a home invasion in 2009. And all my kids and my wife were at gunpoint for a couple of minutes. And my daughter, Olivia, she was 7 at the time. I mean, it fucked her up. And so when these events happen, it triggers this part of her that just never healed properly. And she called my wife, shaking and upset. She didn't want to come from school. So she understands she's got to learn to navigate fear and manage fear. She didn't come and then say, hey, come rescue me. But she wanted to talk to somebody that she trusted. And, and it's interesting how we adapt and we stress inoculate ourselves. And I come home and she's in the kitchen, and I walk up to her and I go, hey, sweetie, I heard what happened at school today. And she kind of brushes it off. She goes, it's okay, Dad. I go, no, it's not fucking okay. And I give her a hug and I go, I'm sorry you have to deal with this. Like, Tosh, when I was in school, the most dangerous guy in school was somebody you never saw fight who was reported to have kicked somebody in the balls, and no one ever saw it. And you're like, holy shit, there's that guy. Don't let him see you, right? Now it's like, they're having talks about, the kids are talking about, I wonder which kids, imagine having a talk going, I wonder if somebody's going to fucking come to school with a gun. You think it's that guy or that guy? Like, it's like a normal conversation. It's insane. And how I tie this to this is there was one, and I don't know the guy's name, and I try not to remember these psychos' names because they should not be remembered or glorified because that's what they want. But there was one guy, some active killer, who only learned how to shoot by playing video games, right? And it made me think, like, your training, particularly the Marines, particularly infantry, your background, plus your mindset, you're a very physical, athletic guy. There are other guys in different services where, if I said, hey, this guy's a SEAL or this guy's a Marine or this guy's, you wouldn't even know just because their body, they're just fucking mentally tough. They don't look like, you are, you work your ass off for it, but you look like a killer. You take care of yourself and you train. So what I'm saying there is you're expected to perform because you put in all that work on the technical side, so that when game day happens, you can adapt and improvise and make that work. And then you've got like some fucker like this kid who has a fight with his girlfriend. She breaks up with him because he's addicted to playing games all the time, shooting games, first person shooter. And he went, and I don't know if you know the story, but there's something like 6 or 8 killed, and 6 of them were headshots, like moving target headshots. And this guy never fired. He fired, according to the police report, a real gun the day of, or the day he decided. He went and bought a gun, went to the range to make sure he understood how to load it and fire it, and then went to the school. So it's kind of a crazy thing. But go ahead, jump in.
I got a thought on that, a big thought, and it has to do with being so desensitized to the burden and the responsibility of death and killing and being responsible, and taking another life, whether it be a human's life or an animal's life, it shouldn't wear easy on anybody. First-person shooter games, I play with my son. I'm divorced, and my son, I'm a remote father. See him once a month, my son, my daughter. And I play first-person shooter games with him because it's a way to connect with him. And I understand, though, that there's a even greater importance then of making sure that the emotion involved with taking a life isn't lost, because on those games it is. And growing up, grew up with a BB gun. I remember the first time I shot, Dad always used to let me shoot the BB gun at birds. I never hit anything. And I just remember the one time I shot a bird. It was a robin off of a tree branch. We were in a boat on the creek, and the bird just fell over. And I just remember, what the fuck did I just do?
Right.
Up to that point, they were just targets.
Right.
And up to that point, the bird and that responsibility of a bird. And I was just like, oh my God. And I remember my dad saying, I just didn't think he was going to hit it.
Right.
And that sticks with me to this day. I must have been 9 or 10 years old. So, the military, we want to desensitize killing. We have to, especially in these elite units or in the combat frontline units. You have to. But there's also sensitivity training that goes on, and there's preparedness behind the scenes, because we're human beings and we're supposed to experience these emotions. We're good people.
Right.
And we're asked to do horrific things to other humans. And so there has to be something on the back as a backstop or a catcher's mitt for him. This fucko in Florida, though, he learns on a video game, and nobody's teaching him the value of life. He probably never went hunting. Hunters are probably the most respectful of life people that I've ever met, because they understand what it means and they value it. It's something very, very real, visceral to them. And so, this kid, he probably never went hunting. He doesn't know what it is to take a life. He didn't know to be scared. He was able to take the headshots because he was so desensitized, because in order to get good at the video game, he probably had to die thousands and thousands of times. But there was no repercussions for dying.
Right.
In our world, let's go boxing. Let's introduce some interpersonal violence where I'm going to punch you as hard as I can. You're going to punch me as hard as I can. Okay, it's not killing, but at least it's a step down or a step up, depending on which way you're looking at it. And there's repercussions for getting hit. I don't want to get hit.
Right.
And that starts to induce things, right? You start to be a little bit more methodical about how you apply force, because you don't want to get hit in response to it. And I think a lot of these wackos are just so desensitized at such a young age, without proper protocols in place to capture some of that they can do this, and they don't ever realize what they're freaking doing.
Yeah, it's a crazy time, and I don't even know, what the answer is. I mean, it's a crazy time, politically, emotionally, safe spaces, entitlement, snowflakes. I got asked all the time not to use the term snowflake. And I'm like, you're a snowflake if you're asking me to use that. My daughter called me a snowflake the other night in the kitchen. I was like bitching about something. She goes, Dad, you're being such a snowflake. And I snapped her. I looked at her and I started laughing because I was, right? Like, it doesn't offend me because I was. It's just funny how everyone's, getting offended these days. But let's not waste time talking about that. What are you up to now? I follow you on Instagram, and people should. A lot of your posts are very philosophical, cerebral, deep, but you're spending a lot of time doing long frickin' endurance type work. Were you always into that, or was that like a way that you could replace deployments? Like, I'm with a small group, and we've got a mission, and have you thought about that? What's the relationship to the endurance world?
Yeah, I mean, so I think, you had to kind of like work out a lot. You have to make yourself hard to kill. Tim Kennedy, I love what he says, make yourself hard to kill.
Right.
Gotta harden your body, harden your mind, harden your skills. Like, that was a big part of the military career. And I mean, you get a certain persona, you know what I mean? But I'm a pretty sensitive guy, actually. Processing things, emotional, and on surface it might not look it, but I try to be really deep. And these things ultimately, where they've gotten to today, is a way for me to retreat into myself and explore. And you can't bullshit yourself,
right?
But I think getting out of the military, even before I got out, but after Fallujah, for sure, I was medicating with fitness, and I was doing it to dull the other sensations that I was experiencing, and I got addicted to the euphoric sense of that adrenaline release, and after you go for a long punishing run, that you feel that euphoric release of accomplishment. And I was just working out. I wouldn't even call them 3, 4, 5 days. They were just literally all days. Work yourself to fatigue and work your mind numb. And it was better than drugs and alcohol and other things that people are going to. But finally I found out that wasn't healthy either.
Right.
Expensive other things in your life. I mean, balance. It's all about balance. And so now I just keep trying to push the margins of my abilities, try to put myself into situations where I'm tempting, like, to be uncomfortable, find discomfort, and then saying, hey, guess what, Tosh? Like, okay, cool. Take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. And work through it. And those are the things that make me stronger. It helps me understand my leadership philosophies, my beliefs. Some of these things are super reflective for me, and I start to understand and think about the experiences that I had and accept them. It's just a way of processing and trying to channel things in a good direction. And so now, I use the social media not for followers or fame or to stroke myself, but like, I want to share my thoughts with people,
right,
want to listen and want to engage. I want people to say, yeah, I believe that, but also I experienced this, or, hey, I disagree with that. What about this? And I get a lot of that, and I enjoy it because it helps me when I'm out there, or when I sit here and I reflect. It's like, okay, hey, I didn't think of it that way. I can be very strong and aggressive in my presentation that it shuts people down sometimes. And really what I'm looking for is just dialogue to help make meaning of everything that I've experienced. I want to grow, be a better person. And so I use social media for that. I'm starting to write a little bit more. I don't have the luxury of pontificating on a platform in front of hundreds of Marines anymore because I'm not, the commander. So it's what do I have to outreach to affect and influence people to live better lives? And so I do that. I'm trying to work with some veterans now, move them through. Some of these veterans are paused on thriving, and I like to reconnect them with the values that they had in the military and show them that those values aren't any different. You're just focused on looking at differences instead of looking at similarities. and how you can take what you've learned or experienced and just continue to pay it forward. That's kind of what I'm doing these days. I love the long endurance stuff because your mind goes places.
Right.
And
it's a moving meditation.
High level of self-awareness to know when your mind is going someplace, and you've set triggers for yourself that says, whoa, okay, there's a trigger real quick. What's going on? I'm thinking this. I'm going to spend some time actually thinking about it instead of continuing to go down the trough of commiserating or feeling sorry for yourself or inventing bullshit that doesn't need to be invented. And just, yeah, I could babble on it all day long, Tony. I don't know.
It's deep. It's heavy. I've taken to, I walk almost every day, and nowhere, and it's not a competition, but like, I'm not doing like these, 100-mile runs and walks but there's that moving meditation is very, very productive. And, the thoughts, the ideas, the memories that pop up, and so I get it. I was just, I've been watching you do that for a few years now, online vicariously. And, just wanted to get some insight, and it didn't surprise me that you had a deep and meaningful explanation for it, which is the cool thing. Are you deliberately doing any, and a lot of people like resist the motivational speaking, like, air quotes. No, I'm not a motivational speaker, but are you actively doing anything to share this, or it's all like word of mouth? It just happens to come up. Like, is there, like in terms of your entrepreneurship, your business, where like, do you have a focus on that? Like you said, you're working with veterans, but is it like, hey, you hear about a buddy through the grapevine, you call this guy up, or is there an actual, how do people get in touch with you? How do people learn about what you're doing?
Yeah. So, I'm filled with a lot of self-doubt, that might surprise you, but, in that dark space, there's a lot of self-doubt. Like, what makes my shit so special? Like, what makes my shit not stink? Like, I'm just full of my own bullshit. I'm so afraid to be the kind of person that's just fell in love with their own bullshit. And because you see them out there everywhere. They want to write a book. They want to get heard. Their story is more special than anybody else's. And I've really just, for the last 4 years of retirement, I don't want to be that person. I despise that person that just, they have to be out there and they have to be heard. 90% of those people are full of shit anyways, that I would argue with them, and I'd love an audience with them and it could be a private audience so we could talk, like, unfuck yourself right now. And I'd love to have that conversation with people, so I've been really hesitant about putting myself out there. People encourage me all the time, hey, you should motivational speak, or you should write a book, or who cares? I'm nobody special, man. I'm just a normal dude who's got normal thoughts, just like you, just like her, just like him. And I just want to be better at myself. But I did. I went out on a limb recently. I was encouraged to start a business, Crooked Butterfly Ranch, and just open up our home and my lifestyle a little bit to people that want to experience things. You don't get tougher by not doing tough shit. You don't get cooler or mental toughness, or you don't learn skills by sitting in a classroom and having somebody talk to you about these skills. But everybody wants that, and say, hey, listen, man, you want it, like, it's a process. Just come and spend some time with me. Set up an event. Let's do an event together. Let's go out and experience Mother Nature. Let's let her help you experience yourself. And I'm just going to be there to guide you. Your tour guide. Right. Set up an interview between you and yourself. And I'm going to coach you along to have the conversation that you need to have with you, instead of buying somebody else's shit for $9.99 and then being disappointed when you get 2 chapters in and realize that they stole everybody else's shit and they're just repackaging it, So anyways, we started a little business to do that. I've got a couple clients, and I'm happy with that. I'll always accept more, but I've turned away a few clients because I don't think I'm what they need. I'll put them in another direction to somebody else, what they're looking for. Just started writing for Spartan. They contacted me, asked me if I would take a stab at writing an entry once a month for them in their
for the races, the race. Yeah.
Well, I'll try to do that, but mostly I'm just just writing on my Instagram. If you want to hear it, you'll look at it. If you want to look at the picture and like it, like it. If you don't. If you want to read it, that's what I really want people to read my shit and in exchange, DM me, email me, respond,
right.
comment. I'm looking for engagement, So that's where I'm at.
I dig it, man. Yeah, like I've known you for years, and people, we unfortunately released this as an audio, but if people could see the earnestness and humility when you talk about, especially when you lean forward and said, "Hey, I'm no one special." I don't know if you saw that I released a new series called "No One Special" as part of our podcast. So we've got the No Fear podcast, and then it occurred to me a few weeks ago that I keep getting emails from people over and over again where in the first paragraph they go, "You probably won't even read this. You don't even read your own email. You probably have some like secretary, and I don't even know, and I'm no one special." And over again over the years, it'd be like, "Oh, look, I'm no one special." And what they're saying is, I don't have a book and I'm not selling anything. That's what they're saying, because everyone's special, and I'm not being fucking, blow smoke up your ass. Like, everyone is a VIP in their life. Like, unless you're really fucked up, a true asocial motherfucker, everybody is, the father's the VIP, or the mother's the VIP, or the kid is the VIP, and you get where I'm going with that. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to do these podcasts interviewing people that nobody else would ever talk to. They would never be on a podcast because nobody gives a shit. Because like, I literally had, and I'll just say that I'm not going to mention their names because they're acquaintances of mine, where like I've had, like, let's say an epiphany, a realization about how deep fear and managing fear is, and some things that I've learned, and called people up who a few years ago I was on their podcasts, and their audience has grown, and I want to share this. I'm excited, and I don't have a book. And I had one guy who's a well-known fighter, who I know he didn't know who I was, because I've had a bunch of people where I DM them and they give me like a canned response. And then I've had people come back and go, "Oh my God, I went to your profile. I didn't realize this was Tony Blower. Hey, I've been a big fan of yours, blah, blah, blah." Like I had one guy go, "Hey, I'd love to have you on my podcast." I was actually wanting to invite him. And his answer was like, "How many downloads are you getting?" It's like, "Hey, motherfucker, just let's have a conversation first." Then I had another guy who said, "No, hey, do you have any? Did you write a book yet?" And I'm like, "No." He goes, "Like, when you write a book, I'll have you back on the show." It was like everything is a transaction. I've had people who I've shared time and energy and thoughts as they were getting involved in different businesses. And it's always because the only thing that I'm trying to sell is how to self-actualize yourself through self-awareness and understanding fear. Yeah, I want people to come to my classes, of course. But me, my main business isn't generated through Instagram. And I've had people where I go, "Hey, would you mind reposting it?" And it's like usually like some event that happened, and I'm posting something about fear. I remember one time there was a shooting, and it was a clip that I had found of an overweight female security officer engaging a guy with a shotgun. And I might be confusing two events, but it was some security guard at a university charging a guy with a shotgun, wrestling him to the ground and fighting him. And you could see he's just not trained. It was just primal gross motor. If I don't do something, people are going to die. And he did something. And I wrote this post that showed it was like surveillance video. So like, it wasn't like me selling a No Fear shirt. It was surveillance video. And my post was about, listen, violence doesn't care what martial art you study. It just happens. It doesn't care whether you're a liberal or a Republican. It doesn't care whether you like guns or not guns. When it happens, you're either the bug or you're the fucking windshield, and you got to fucking decide. Like, some shit's going to happen. There's going to be a collision, and I asked a bunch of people who have big social media followings, who I've been there for, hey, repost this, and like nobody did, because what's happened. So I'm like, I'm off on a mini rant here. Like when you said, hey, you're like, what's happened is followers has become a transaction. It's become a currency. And you know, I'd be bullshitting if I didn't look at a post and go, well, fuck, why did this post only get 200 likes, but that other one of my sushi got 700 likes? You know, what the fuck? This one was damn, that sushi looked good. But I have enough self-awareness to catch myself looking at the wrong thing. Right? Like I'm going like, who gives a fuck?
Well, I mean, so for a long time, I think source of, you know, pride, kind of like, you cut your nose off despite your face, something like, you know, it's a metric. It's not a tell-all. Like, you know, I look at my followers, you know, I look at how many likes I get on something, see what's working. Ultimately, not because I'm seeking it. Right. I want to see what the reach is. You know, sure. I want to be smart about
feedback
people, because I want to connect with people. And if you're not opening up the conduit for connection, then you're not going to have it. So I love looking at all your stuff. And I think the video you're talking about, the surveillance video, was just like recently too, like a week or so ago that you posted this one, or you did.
There was another one. The one in my mind was I think a year ago, but I post whenever I can. I mean, a lot of my stuff is like I'm truly trying to inspire people. I mean, I have so many conversations offline where part of me goes, you know, there's people that pay me by the hour to do this. You could, you know, but I'm in there, like, I love the conversation, because I'll sometimes go to a live class. You know, I got 100 people at our combatives camp in Vegas, and I'll do this rant and a whiteboard thing, and I'll go questions, and everyone's like sitting there, and I'm like, somebody asked me a question. Like, I really, you know, it's like I'm not ready to like turn the class over to one of my two ICs and freaking, you know, I got like a team ready to go. And like, I love discussing this shit. I love the discovery and the back and forth, and you know, a couple of things that you said, you know, that invention theory and the idea of like deep shit where I'm gonna, like, you know, I'll be dreaming about that tonight, right? So like, that's the fun part about this stuff. But
you're passionate, man. You're filled with purpose, and it's genuine, it's authentic. You just want to give and share and help people help themselves against all the fuckos out there, you know, and it's awesome, dude. And that's the kind of people I like to be surrounded with, and that's the people I want to connect with. And, you know, you and I would both be lying to each other and everybody else if we didn't say, hey, like, we didn't look at our followers, or we look at our likes, and it does feel good to be liked, and it does feel good to have followers, but it's an indicator that you're, you know, I said I was full of self-doubt, you know, it's like an indicator for me, like, hey, I'm not a ranting idiot. I might sound like one at times, but, you know, like, people value it, and I just want to give value. And if ever it starts to dip and go the other direction, it's like, hey, guess what, Tosh? Like, your shit sucks. And it's like, hey, move on, man. Home Depot's calling. So but, I enjoy talking about this. It personally, it helps me. Hopefully it helps others. And listen, you know what? Fear, you have to feed it. Just don't fucking feed it. Stop feeding it. You know, I tell people, like, hey, you're turning the boogeyman under the bed into Satan that's in your closet. Right. Just pick up the blankets and look under the bed. You know, like, stop feeding it, because if you feed it, it grows. And there's like a little thing. I like to reserve words. You know, and, you know, am I feeling apprehensive? Am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling guarded? Am I just worried? Am I just nervous? Like, because I like to go there. Or am I really feeling fear? Right? Like, if I'm starting to really feel fear, there's another feeling that's really tied to that, and it's helplessness. Right. And I refuse to be helpless, you know? And so it's like, okay, okay, this is, what can I do to release this, not feed it? Right. You know? And just stop feeding it. Channel it, organize it, dispel it. Is it rationally irrational? I mean, own it, man. Let's just own life, you know? Yeah. I dig it, man. And the self-doubt
is what's probably most attractive to the people looking at you, because there isn't this, this like facade, this polished facade of, like when you walk into some business and they make you wait, and then somebody ushers you here, then you talk to this person, then you talk, and you could see there's this psychological tic-tac-toe to get you to buy a timeshare, that didn't happen to me twice. So but I dig that, and and I've always appreciated that about you, and the like we just did a course on the East Coast, military gig, and on the way back from the airplane, like I wrote friggin' like 6 or 8 pages of notes on a new course I wanted to do, and I didn't have to. Like it was the dog and pony, and they said, okay, we want to do this, we're going to write up this contract. But like I wasn't happy with what I saw they needed and their enthusiasm and their energy and what they showed me. I rewrote the whole thing, even though they had bought something else. I look at that as my doubt, and I'm going to flip this a little bit. Is like I'm not satisfied. I'm always looking for the next iteration for my own expression, and it's not a tactic, right? I'm not trying to get something from it, because nobody knew that same thing happened. I just got back from Australia, and I only went out there to wave like the Queen. I mean, I had 2 trainers, one from the States, one from the UK, going and giving this class, and I went out there for 2 days just to pop in. And I was watching the class, and suddenly, like on Thursday, the 4th day of the class, I was like, fuck, I hate this. Like, it's my stuff. It's Spear 4.0. And it's not that I hate it, but I was like, okay, this is a year old. It's done. Like, my brain had morphed in research in how I want people to be thinking and moving, and rewrote that on the way home. And a lot of my trainers, the ones that don't last, are the ones where I call them up on a Sunday night, and the class is supposed to start on Monday, and I go, hey, Tuesday, I want you to try these 2 drills here, switch this around, tell me how it goes. And I could see them, because we're on like a Zoom call or a Skype call, and I could see like some of the guys, and everyone forgets, because we're into the conversation, they forget that I can fucking see them. And body language is 60% of communication, right? And I've had guys in the past like roll their eyes or look at each other like, fuck, he's making me redo shit on a Sunday night. And then I've had other guys smile going, fuck, his brain doesn't stop. This is for the operator. This is for the end user. We're not the ones at risk. They're the ones out there fucking doing the dangerous shit. We're here like coming back full circle. I'm Angelo Dundee outside the ring screaming at you going, jab. You're the one getting punched in the face. I'm like going,
that's because you have this very special appetite for excellence that's just not found these days. And most people, man, it's wonderful. You have an appetite. It's a uniquely acquired taste, and it's towards excellence. And you don't settle for a shitty meal, man. And it's super admirable. Super admirable.
Dude, I love it. How can people get in touch with you or learn more about you? Obviously, you've got a future book in the making when somebody decides to collate all of your Instagram posts, because there's amazing stuff there. Seriously, anyone listening to this, go to Tosh's Instagram, tosh.crookedbutterfly. What's the origin of Crooked Butterfly? There's got to be a story to that. No?
Yeah, I mean, there's a touchy-feely story. There's a little song that's out there about a butterfly, and Nicole and I, my partner, we just always talk about, you took me in and you dusted me off, and butterflies pass. We had this little thing. If you could be, I can't even believe I'm sharing this with you.
Okay. Remember, you're sharing this with maybe 2 or 3 other people. Go on.
First dating, it's one of those questions, right? You're in the feeling each other out phases. What's your superpowers, whatever. Well, what kind of animal would you be if you could be any animal? And it's a caterpillar. I want to be a caterpillar. That's why I resonate with a caterpillar. And it's like, why? Like, it's just, they're missed, they're underestimated, yet there's so much potential inside, and there's a metamorphosis, a growth, and boom, and next thing you know, they're really a butterfly if you take the time to get to know them. And it struck a chord with her. And, you know, I think our journeys through life aren't straight. We take wrong turns, we go left, we go right, we go crooked, we lose our way, we find our way, but that's what it is. It's life. It's just life. You live it with the best you can. And butterflies, I don't know, they don't fly from point A to point B. They can't fly in a straight line. And it's just much like our lives. It's much like my life. I've taken a lot of bad turns. No regrets. Things I am ashamed of. Things I'm not proud of. Things that I wish I would have done different, but no regrets because, you know, they're formative of who we are. And if you don't look back at those and learn from them or respect them and grow, then what are you doing? So, you know, no regrets. But, you know, my path through life, like all of ours, is crooked. It's unstraight. So Tosh.crooked butterfly. You know?
Dude, I'm so glad I asked that because that's cool to know the background. Fucking cool.
Feely shit, man.
I know. Give me a hug.
Dude, I'm gonna go do some cleans now, you know, and some arm curls.
Beautiful. What else? Is that the main place to reach you, or do you got a website or anything like that?
crookedbutterfly.com. It's hanger. It's much like, hey, nobody takes you serious unless you got a book. Nobody takes you serious unless you put your medal on display for everybody to see, or you advertise that you have a trident, or, you know, you have to, like, I refuse to do that. It tarnishes for me. So, but having a website was a way to express legitimacy.
Right.
So, hit me on Facebook, Tosh.crooked butterfly. I don't even know what my Facebook handle is. It's Brian Chontosh, actually, I think is. I've got a business called crookedbutterfly.com. You can Google.
And here's the thing, guys, like, if you can't find it, then you're not going to be able to find his house. So you're fucked anyhow. Right.
If you can't find it, you didn't really want to anyways.
Right. Okay, brother. Hey man, it was so good to catch up. And
love you, Tony, man. Love you, bro. And give my best to Jess.
I love you too. Thank you, man. We will be in touch. Let's do this again. This is a lot of fun.
Right on, brother.
Peace out.
See you in San Diego because we're doing Nobu. We were overdue for Nobu.
Let's do it. Hit me up. When are you coming out here next? You know?
Man, I have no idea. When the wind blows.
Let's do it, Mr. Butterfly. I'll see you soon. Love you.
Brother. Be well. Got it.